Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Rachel, and I will be moderating today's webinar, The Three-Pronged Approach to Customer Journey Mapping, hosted by 3CLogic, Acton, and DataSync. I want to introduce our three guest speakers. Representing 3CLogic, we have Guillaume Sainthas. He's the VP of Sales and Marketing. Guillaume has over 10 years of experience in sales and customer service and previously served as a VP at Charles Schwab in their wealth management team. He holds his undergraduate degree from Boston College and received his MBA at Maryland. Representing Acton, we have Noel Rabinowitz, Senior Product Marketing Manager. He joined Acton product team almost 3 years ago after being an Acton customer directing the new media for the Applied Research Center. Noel co-authored 2 books on internet animation before Flash existed, and he received his BA in Physics and BA in Visual Arts from Brown University. And last but not least, we have Mike Vetter, President and CTO of DataSync. Mike brings over 10 years of experience in sales, marketing, product management, e-commerce, network security, and bank software implementation, and holds his Bachelor of Science from Dakota State University in e-commerce and computer security. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We're excited to have you all joining us today. Now at this point, I want to dive straight into the webinar. I wanted to start out with an interesting data point that I recently came across, and I thought it would help set the stage for today's discussion. And that is that 89% of companies plan to compete primarily on the basis of customer experience by 2016. So businesses today are finding it increasingly difficult to compete on price and product alone, and are discovering that to deliver on the expectations of today's consumers, they need to do more. They need to offer a superior customer experience. But there is a problem. 76% of companies willingly admit that they do not have a single customer view. And what this essentially means is that these employees don't have access to all of the information they need about their customers centralized in a single location. And they don't have access when it matters most at the time of the interaction. And this is inhibiting their ability to deliver on the very thing that they're hoping to differentiate themselves on, which is the customer experience. And why is this happening? 78% of businesses say they don't have a framework in place to analyze multi-channel customer journeys. So these companies might be using a marketing automation platform like Acton to assist in attracting and nurturing their customers. They might be using a CRM like Sugar to help manage client information and facilitate sales. And then they might be using a multi-channel communications platform similar to 3CLogic to actually communicate with these customers through a number of channels, be it voice, email, text chat, social media. But they haven't combined and integrated them to create a framework that provides this single customer view that we're referring to. So if we're looking at today's topic, the three-pronged approach to customer journey mapping, essentially what we're talking about is this integrated trifecta, or the combination of marketing automation, CRM, and multi-channel communication to facilitate the delivery of this customer experience, and that we're referencing, and the one that consumers have come to expect. And at this time, I'd like to pass the baton to Noel. Noel, can you give us the lay of the land as far as where marketing automation stands today and how it plays a role in today's buyer's journey?
Sure, Rachel, thanks. I'll try and do my best. There's a lot to it, but in a nutshell, really what's happening is that the buyer's journey has changed very profoundly and will continue to do so. And the technology and the landscape of how people interact with their journey, that's really put the power in the hands of the buyer and more in the hands of the customer as well. So marketing and sales team who wants to compete on this customer experience as they're moving through their journey from, a web engagement to a blog to a social engagement to getting peer reviews from their starting their search with starting their purchase with a web search, all of these different phases in the buyer's journey. Marketing and sales has to work harder to get on board with that and deliver an excellent experience no matter where they are in that process. I think the sum and substance is, and it's a figure that's not on here, but it's an astounding something like 60 or 70% of the buying decision is totally made before that buyer is even going to talk to a salesperson for the first time. You can't just market the old way and pushing stuff out to people and hoping it'll stick. Now the buyer is more of a partner. We do stuff with them. So those business decisions continue to drive that process deeper and deeper into the sales funnel, and they drive themselves deeper on their own. So resultingly, you've got to get them content that will continue to rise in value, and especially as they're moving through that funnel, and the of all the different purchasing decisions are happening without you being physically or present or on the phone, and that person has ever increasing knowledge and access to information. So that's why you have to be able to give content that's not mediocre. You have to give excellent content, and you have to be able to make that first call when they finally do get to call you. That first call had better be highly informative and in context for this particular buyer. And once they're a customer, they're still looking. They may switch at any time, so you better continue to be aware of their needs. And so that's why you need to have marketing as part of this picture. So what is marketing automation? In a nutshell, marketing automation is it's really a simple concept. It's just all the infrastructure and the tools that you need in order to get the right message to the right person at the right time. And that sounds really easy, but if you're dealing with onesie twosie, one at a time communications, that's cool. You can send out information, or you can just, like in the past, just batch and blast and send everybody the same thing. That's not going to work anymore. So your personalized messaging has to be scalable. The information you get back from the engagements has to be actually large scale, and so you can build messaging that sympathizes with not just individual buyers, but micro-targeting segments and smaller categories of those buyers based on the stage that they're at, that you can be aware of, the persona that you're targeting, the industry that they're in, the product line that they're interested in, all the things that are showing their intent to buy. So why do we do this? Why do we invest all the energy in building a platform that can do all those things? Top reason is it's just simply to be able to institute empathy for the buyer at scale, because that buyer is on a journey. They're an individual. They want to be treated like that. But you're engaging with thousands of people at once. So you have to be able to scale that journey. And that's why top performers are marketing differently in that way throughout the customer life cycle. The ones who are beating their revenue targets and have more than 90% of their customers who are happy, studies show that they are the ones who are using. They think of the whole customer life cycle, not just generating leads or even generating revenue. They're looking at repeat business. They're looking at customer satisfaction. They're looking at that journey being totally amazing for each and every buyer. And they use metrics really heavily to guide all their decisions, and they use advanced techniques like segmentation, personalization, and more it's going to be predictive. So don't just give me what I need now. Give me what I don't need. Give me what I don't know yet that I need, and so that folks can engage with their customers where they're not only where they're at to be in terms of the pain that they're in or the needs that will be surfacing. So that's how top performers are using marketing automation to outgrow their competition who are not using it. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the buyer journey. In order to understand the value of marketing automation, you have to see that it exists and interrelates to all the tools, like we're going to hear today about communication platform, CRM, and CRM is kind of the heartbeat that can tie many different systems together. Don't have a platform to automate and optimize your marketing engagement throughout that entire buyer journey, then you're not going to be able to generate the deliverables that marketing needs to deliver at each of these stages. So, for example, at the attract phase, as we call it, we're generating awareness, and that means getting eyeballs. We're getting people to the site. We're getting our message out. We're doing branding work, traffic. But you have to be able to capture that traffic and turn that awareness into contact. So you have to focus tools at the capture stage in order to get anonymous activity that you saw in the previous stage and turn that into a hand raise. Yes, I want that white paper. Yes, I want that webinar. Yes, yes, yes. Whatever the hand raise is, you're capturing that person, and from thenceforth, you can associate their behaviors from the past, the present, and the future, and associate that with a known person. So it's great once they become known. You can begin to improve your empathy with that person and nurture them through developing that contact into a lead, qualifying them, educating them, sorting out the ones who are showing signals of buying intention versus those that are not, And then once they've achieved a certain level of engagement, you pass that lead over to sales automatically, who then teams up with marketing, and marketing and sales through the nurturing and convert stages are happening in parallel. And we'll hear more from Mike about that in a minute. The CRM, it's using communication tools, and it's using the activity history that's surfaced by the marketing automation platform to turn those leads into customers. Now, awesome, once they're customers, then you can do all these things using all these systems in tandem to expand their loyalty, expand the value, and their advocacy customers. So, I guess the whole theory of this webinar and what you're sitting around listening to is to understand how these three pieces fit together. So what does marketing automation bring to this trifecta that's not there without it? So, what does it mean? If the companies, if these companies are having a lot of information, the piece that this brings to the puzzle, marketing automation lets your system know who is the most engaged. What do they want? What stage are they in? What offer can my system send them based on their interests? Which are the qualified leads? Which are the quality leads? And then what talk track can be used that actually is a contextual conversation for that person? And then what are the content and campaigns and the segments later after I've generated all this activity? How can I then attach actual revenue value and total customer lifetime value going all the way back in history to the original touch points that marketing generated to bring folks into the funnel? So if you have all this information siloed and you can't easily access from a single place, then your sales team can't have all the insight they need when they're delivering their pitch. Your customer support can't have all the insight they need when they're trying to handhold that customer through maybe some painful patch, or they're trying to educate them about the system features that they haven't used yet. Well, if they don't know what's in use or what's not in use, they can't do that. So that's where all this data can flow into the CRM, and where the piece of the puzzle of CRM really comes into front and center. So Mike, why don't you take us away from that point and see where we overlap at this point in the journey?
Yeah, thanks, Noel. And I really wanted to kind of bring it back to a couple of things in your sales team, and also using the information that you gain in marketing to power your sales. And in the old world, marketing would essentially throw leads over the wall to sales, and sales would essentially try to take whatever information they could from the customer on the first call, and then begin doing the deal. The problem with that methodology is that all of these questions can already be answered and should already be answered via marketing, via the tools that Acton has. So we can already answer, when we give a lead to a salesperson, where they're the most interested, what they wanted, where are they at in the sales process, because these are marketing pieces that have already been sent, or email pieces that have already been sent, website assets that they've already viewed. And so if you're and you don't know what's been happening in marketing, you're really fighting with one hand tied behind your back. You lack the information to properly qualify that lead. And so what you're doing is the customer is experiencing a recall process where the same questions they've already been answering themselves via the interaction digitally with the company are being asked again by the salesperson. And integrating these two systems together gives the salesperson all the information they need to not only serve the customer well, but to help the customer understand where they might, their products and needs might be most served. Another thing that's important about this is it helps the customer feel like they're being tracked into an area that they're most needed. So they're not being offered products and services that are not the most important to them. And so their experience and their buying habits reflect that. And we see that when marketing and sales are working together, the close cycle for a customer is much more quick, and it also is less costly for the company that's providing the service. So why is the CRM important in general? Well, when coupled properly with the marketing automation system, we find in our practice, DataSync's practice, that we oftentimes exceed the $5.60 that we return on a dollar spent in CRM. Because of this dual effort being cut down. So a salesperson is spending their time doing the most important activities and not doing the work of remarketing to a customer because they already know what's happening. Another thing we see is we see increased productivity, and specifically when we see mobile CRM and mobile access to marketing, and that's something that both Acton and Sugar CRM do well. because now a salesperson, when they're out in the field, is able to get the information that's happening in marketing, and they're able to incorporate that into their sales activities while they're on the road. They don't have to wait until they're in front of their office computer. They're already seeing what's happening in sales. They're already seeing the call right there when they're out in the field. We also see this has a bump in close rates because they're getting back to customers faster. So they're not having to wait through a separate interface to go see what digital assets a customer has. That customer, right from their mobile, they're able to see exactly what a customer has looked at, what white papers they've downloaded, what particular products they're interested in, right from their mobile. And there's a big advantage to that. So I just wanted to show an example of what this looks like. So if we look at, this is just a simple screenshot of Acton embedded into Sugar CRM. And if you can't see this on your monitor, I'll just point out a couple things. So the first thing is we have the Acton history, where we can see all the emails they've been sent. And we can see also other information that they've downloaded, other documents, white papers, things like that, and other website pages they've viewed. We can also see the actual messages they've been sent, and those messages are hot linkable. So if I'm a salesperson, I can then click on a message right from the CRM to look at what that particular customer was reviewing prior to the call. I'm going to be reviewing information they've already downloaded and understood. The last thing I wanted to point out here is that Acton has a lead scoring mechanism that will actually tell me how hot that lead is. So if they've viewed a lot of papers, they've looked at 4 or 5 different pages on my website, and maybe they filled out a form, I know that this particular lead is very, very interested in my product and service, and I might actually build my sales workflow to follow up with those people right away. And this is very important because we all know, those of us who are in sales and marketing, that the more quickly we can get to hot prospects, the more we can drive our close rates up, and the more we can shorten our sales cycle. And these are the key things that actually drive up your ROI. Is if you're shortening your sales cycle, you're reducing the amount of duplicate effort that you're going through to talk to a customer. This is very important. Now, the challenge of this is that CRM without multi-channel communications is another disadvantage. So if you have the front office with marketing and sales nailed down, but you don't have the back end built into it, you have a lot of challenges. And the challenge is that you have salespeople who are reaching out actively to these customers, but those interactions are not tracked. Or maybe information is being updated by other people in the organization while the deal is being worked, and that information isn't there. Another problem is that sometimes it's manual. So every single sales process is manual, even if somebody from inside the organization has updated a lead or its contact. I, as the salesperson, don't know that. And so I may be going through duplicate effort of calling people within the organization to find out where an internal process is at to produce a proposal or something like that. And I'm not aware of that, and therefore I have to either find that out, or worse, I call the customer not knowing that that has happened. And this may be also including other suppliers that are involved in the deal. And this can also cut down on your effectiveness and increase your sales cycle. They're important to cut down. So with that, I want to throw it over to Julian. I want you to talk a little bit about what you do and how it impacts this process.
Yeah, Mike, both Mike and Noel, I appreciate your inputs and obviously your viewpoints. And I want to echo what both of you have said so far, which is that it's not a matter of whether what each solution contributes individually. It's the sum of all those different parts: marketing, sales, as well as obviously the communication component. And honestly, when you look at marketing automation, you look at CRMs, they obviously play a very, very important role. We here at 3CLogic actually use both, and I'm sure that the same applies to both Acton and DataSync. And that data management is increasingly important because there's so much data out there. But what seems to go continuously sort of ignored, or certainly flies under the radar, is the fact that we all in a very multi-channel world, and it's something that we take for granted. But if you take a step back and you look at sort of the business use cases, well over 3/4 of consumers want to use or do use 3 to 4 channels during a single interaction. And those channels will cover the gamut, everything from voice to email to text to chat, social media, any and all of them apply. And the difficulty in today's world as it relates to the contact center space, which obviously presumably can be a component of sales, marketing, service, or any of the above, to manage all of those different channels on an equal level playing field. And it's completely contingent on making sure that you have the appropriate data available to you from those different data sets, so that when those interactions do take place, regardless of whether you've initiated them or the customer has initiated them, that you have the relevant information at that point of interaction, so you can deliver on the customer experience that the consumers, and that's the key point right there, is that consumers expect businesses today to be as well informed as they are, so that when they do reach out to you or vice versa, when you reach out to them, presumably they understand that their data has been shared, and that presumably it is being maintained somewhere. And they anticipate that all those different departments and tools are in fact talking to each other and syncing up, so that when that conversation takes place, regardless of the medium, could be across email, that your individual reps are actually prepared to have that discussion and be able to facilitate that consumer's need. Now, if you look at the impact, we'll take sales reps, because right now we're focused sort of initial acquisition of the customers. If you look at sales reps today, they need help to succeed. 80% of sales reps, as an example, require 5 follow-up calls after a meeting, or sales opportunities will require 5 follow-up calls. But the majority of sales reps, almost half, will give up after 1. And if you look at the number of calls that you have to initiate just to get, it's about 8. And it will take about 6.5 hours worth of prospecting to get all the right information to increase your odds of getting that appointment. And then obviously, imagine there's so much noise when you think about the different means. If you think of yourself as a consumer, the different mediums by advertisements and so forth, marketing automation tools that are used to try and reach you, would take an individual, a sales rep, to reach a single prospect today is 8, when it used to be under 4. So, being able to market to effectively, being able to use the data that's housed in the CRM to then communicate that message to them when you have an opportunity to have that conversation, and being able to do it across the mediums that the customer may prefer. We've covered that they want to use multiple different channels. It's the combination of all 3 that's really going to increase your success. And the alternative is, 33% of today's sales could have been won had the seller or the representative at that point in time actually had more relevant information available at their fingertips. And so really this refers back to the sort of trifecta. So, the original screenshot that Mike had alluded to showed a combination of sugar and Acton, and obviously spoke to the benefit of just having those 2 mediums. And I'm sure that individuals that are listening in today's webinar are perfectly aware of integrating one solution with another. And there is obviously already an exponential net benefit when you do so. It's when you can actually then combine a third overlay that you really get that added benefit. And from our perspective, if you look at the data management tools, that's great. It's the ability to then use that information at the point of interaction. And that's really where a call center application can really help, is that it can not only facilitate when and under what circumstances and through what medium to have that call, but then when you do initiate that call, you would then have access to all the relevant information, whether it be in your system of record, the CRM, or all the historical information to get that individual through into that contact status. All those things together provide a far more efficient and far more effective means by which to communicate with the individual. And so if we look at sort of the role that multi-channel communications would play as an individual, you can answer the questions, when should I reach out? What would be the most effective email? Is it social media? Is it text? So what channel should I be using? And then what happened on the prior interaction? If I'm a representative that's following up on something that may have occurred in a different department, I may want what that conversation was, so that I can actually seamlessly continue that conversation through the entire customer journey. And that's always, going to bode well for the company, that you are organized, and the consumer never feels like you've dropped the ball. They actually feel like a member of the team, because, you're maintaining that level of tap on those various data solutions, marketing automation, of course, and CRM, which is what we're talking about today. And then the idea is, then how can I nurture or effectively set the appropriate next interaction based on how the current one would have terminated. And so that's really, when you're talking about sales, that's a very, very well together.
Okay, so I think you guys have given us a really good basis of where these 3 solutions come together for marketing and sales, but what happens after the sale has been made? And do the solutions still play a role? because the relationship certainly should not end once the sale has been made. And I found a few good data points that highlight the importance of customer retention. 89% of consumers who experience poor service with your brand will leave for your competition. On average, loyal customers are worth 10 times as much as their first purchase. And it's 6 to 7 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than it is to keep a current one. So it's clear that they need to continue playing a role.
Yeah, you know what, Rachel, you bring up a really good point, and I'll certainly defer to Mike and Noel here in short order. But you're right. I mean, the role of the trifecta effect that we're talking about actually does have an implication after the fact. So you've acquired the consumer, but in this day and age, it's a lot about retention, especially if you talk about customer experience. And actually, it's interesting that you should mention that, because there's actually what's been quoted or termed the existence of what we call switching economy, and it directly, basically, it speaks to the fact that there are a number of consumers that are repeatedly changing vendors, purely driven by the level or lack of service that they may have received. And that's where obviously marketing automation, a CRM, and both a communication platform working in tandem can really actually provide, for those businesses that use them in conjunction with each other, an opportunity to actually hit this market. And it's a big market. It's about $1.6 trillion, and it's actually increased just shy of 30% since 2010. So, you know, I think this is a great opportunity to sort of go back to where we started, which is marketing automation, and maybe Noel, you could give us an idea of exactly, you know, what role marketing would play after the fact.
That's a great question, and segue back into how these pieces fit together. And we'll give some specific examples of how this works in the real world. You know, the high-level goal, the point of departure, was to provide a great buyer experience and a great customer experience, and that means you know, providing empathy and context to that buyer for where they are in the journey and who they are, and what they're interested in. And then if you have that, and you have the pieces and the tools that we're presenting today, then you can have the visibility to give your business the information it needs and the tools to accelerate the buyer through the buying cycle, and the tools to give us a great experience to that customer. So, and this happens at every stage of the journey. So the first thing you want to do, whether they're a buyer or a customer who you're trying to expand business with, you need to create disruption. You know, the buyer and the customer are not aware yet that they have a problem at all. So the point of this phase and the tools that we bring to bear from the trifecta are, how do we create a great disruption experience to let them know they have a problem? We have to show them the cost of not solving that problem, and there's lots of channels to do this. Each of those pieces of the trifecta can be, think of it as like a force multiplier, one multiplying the effect of the other. So here's an example of how, you know, attracting new visitors who are considering if they have a problem or not. They're not sure. Maybe they do. Maybe you're just coming out of left field with information that you know is going to be relevant to them based on information you have about them. So, you know, you might have a website where there's someone's visiting, and your prospecting tool this surfaces the companies who are anonymously visiting your site. So now I know, well, you know, there's an interesting company visiting my site today. I can tell because of the tracker that's on my site, and the reverse IP lookup tells me what company it is. Well, now if that's a target company, I can start to qualify that company already. Do they have a need for what I offer? I could potentially append names to my list and call out using my communication tools. I could open an opportunity in the CRM and then, you know, mark that opportunity for an email nurture track, or I could, you know, disqualify them. All of these things, and the end person who's receiving these communications, they already had an interest, and they're already thinking about your website and your brand as the possible solution. So now you have a context in which to reach out to them in a much more meaningful way. You know, and start researching the solutions after they've had a great experience as they've disrupted their status quo. So the research phase is going to take them, you know, into the realm of they already know they can get a solution, but what kind of solutions are out there for them? This is what they're looking all around the world, and back to you. That's the key to this stage then, is making them offers that are relevant to this stage where they're trying to just learn. They're just trying to understand. You can use all these different tools available. Here's a way to combine it. Let's are sending a targeted email personalized by the persona, the job title of that person that or the industry. You've already, the point is to make offers that they can't refuse and then capture that information and respond accordingly. That tells the specific buyer, give them information that tells them how this kind of solution will make them successful. Once they have a certain number of people are going to respond to that targeted outreach, they might even, check the call me form and, supply you with names of other stakeholders and capturing information about their buying committee. This is a great opportunity for you to open an opportunity in the CRM if they're qualified, and then mark them for an email nurture campaign again at a higher level of engagement and education about your solution. Or you can disqualify them now that you know they don't have the interests that match your solution. Again, a great experience results. You reach them with something they need, you responded quickly, and then they went to them. And now you've moved them further down the pipeline with this great experience using all the tools at your disposal in the Trifecta. You've narrowed down the solutions. They're deliberating. They're in the next stage of their journey, and you're in the next stage of your technology, becoming experts. They know all the pieces of the best solution. So you just need to nurture them along as they're doing this deliberation. They're weighing different criteria. Well, there might be 4 or 5 considered. They're balancing. Well, why does your solution match up the best with their needs, with the criteria that matter the most to them? So, like for example, my personal experience way back when I was buying marketing automation, I had a small. This was really an important criteria. So I was looking for companies in education that matched that criteria the most, and through a combination of the marketing touch points that I was engaging with, and then sales conversations get in the mix at this point, they were able to know how to tailor their conversation through a combination of qualifying questions that were informed by my activity history. So in real life, here's how it works in the 3-pronged approach. You can have a nurture program that someone has already been in, an email that's driving them to web content, maybe your blog, showing white papers, data sheets, videos, webinars, all the things that show why they need your solution as the best fit for their needs. Then, when they've engaged enough, that lead gets pushed to the CRM, and they've exceeded a certain activity score, or they've hit a very visible buying. They've thrown a visible buying signal like, "Hey, contact me," or "Yes, I need a phone call today." Then again, you're in the CRM. An opportunity gets ready. And then you continue to nurture them, but this time knowing that sales and marketing are going to be working in parallel to create that great experience. So now we're in the realm of CRM plus marketing automation, and Mark can tell us a little bit more about the interplay at this point.
Yeah, thanks, Noel. So just talking a little bit about the endpoint of the deliberation nurturing phase. So this is the point in the buying cycle where you want to take everything that you've learned from the customer and everything that you've learned about their needs, their wants, their buying patterns, all those things, and you want to move forward to a decision. And the decision point is really taking all of the information that you've gained from this particular prospect and funneling that into providing them with the customized solution that they want and need, and bringing them to a closed sale. Now, as we to do that, you want to take all of the information that has been gathered throughout the buying process, and you want to bring that together for their benefit into the final proposal or whatever else you use to finalize the transaction. And you want to bring this information to the customer in a way that helps them to say, I've made the right decision. Everything I've asked, I've received, and what I need to know now is what I need to know to make that particular decision. And if you've done a good job with both the marketing piece and the integrated communications piece, you're going to have all that information at your fingertips if you're a salesperson. And it gives you the confidence and the knowledge to go ahead and make that sale. Now, in a modern, the sale is not the end of your relationship with that customer. In fact, building loyalty with the customer is really where you gain the benefit in the long run. Customers generally have more than one problem. They virtually always do. They have one problem they've come to you to solve first, and once they're going to buy more from you. And most companies today are accelerating their growth or even depending on their growth from existing customer upsells and cross-sells. And if you stop marketing to your customers, if you stop communicating with them, you're very unlikely to continue to expand that relationship. And that customer churn is going to catch up with you. And there are many, many stats and studies about successful brands building customer loyalty through upsells, cross-sells. Not only do they gain additional revenue for that work, they gain additional loyalty. And everyone wants to work with brands that they love. So once you've obtained a customer, why are these three things still important? Well, studies have shown that 86% of US are willing to spend more money, hard dollars, for a better customer experience. They're willing to actually leave money on the table if they know that they're going to be taken care of. And part of this is related to the switching economy that was talked about earlier. It's very expensive to switch from one vendor to another vendor. And unless their experience is so bad and their products and services are so poor that it becomes not cost effective to continue. Another stat that's interesting is 73% of US adults said a friendly customer service made them fall in love with the brand. And brand loyalty is one of the keys to growing a business. You're likely to not only gain from your marketing and sales efforts, but from the word of mouth efforts that you just can't put a price tag on. And the reason why these three systems are important to work in concert together is because if a company works as one for the benefit of their customers, that customer feels important and they feel like they are a part of the buying process and also the ongoing relationship process. And so building that brand loyalty and falling in love with the brand will allow you to accelerate. And it also makes your marketing efforts and your outbound communications efforts much more effective because you're not spending your time trying to convince your customers to buy from you. You're merely building the relationship that the relationship foundation that you've already spent so much time constructing. So with that, I'll throw it over to Julian to talk a little bit more about what that means in his context.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. So again, both Noel and Mike are hitting it on the head. Having the information to help first acquire the customer is obviously key, but it's also maintaining that information and using it later in the relationship that you have an opportunity to retain that customer, and that's really where the lifetime value really resides. And that's where, again, the trifecta can play. Actually take a look at first call resolution rate, so FCR, which is typically something that businesses will monitor to understand how effective are they at addressing a customer's needs on the first attempt. And obviously you can imagine there's a direct correlation between the information available to the agent at that time and specifically the medium by which they reach you from. So if they're hitting you up on social media, are you properly set up to address that need in a similar fashion where they'd call you? Or if they shoot you an email, are you subject to the same response times, or are you able to meet similar response times as if it were over text? And most importantly, when those interactions take place, again, whether your company initiated or was initiated by the consumer, is your agent in a position to answer those questions and address those needs? Now, obviously, some issues may require more than one interaction. So a first call resolution is a little bit of a misnomer. It's the idea that if you don't do it on the first try, you haven't been successful. That's not necessarily true. If you have the relevant information and can set the proper expectations, you still can actually be quite successful. And yet, if you look today, 60% of first call resolutions or fail for all intents and purposes, largely due to the fact that the agent was not given access to the customer and systems data that house the information as it specifically relates to the individual in question. So if you're talking about, if they call in and they're asking you a marketing related question, why did I receive this? I'm already a consumer. And all you have is data from the CRM that isn't mapped to act on, for example, then unfortunately the agent is very quickly going to demonstrate to the consumer that they don't have that answer. And the consumer will quickly get frustrated. And we've all been on that end of the call, where you call in, you ask for a piece of information, you get transferred, and so on and so forth. Wouldn't it be great if, because you have a three-pronged approach or mapping of the customer journey, that the representatives that you are going to contact as a business, that you know that they can actually be multifaceted. They can answer a marketing question, a CRM question, whether it's billing and accounting and so forth, so that they can actually be more than just one department. They can represent multiple departments. And really, again, and we had mentioned this before, it's all about keeping the lines open. And the number of lines have actually expanded. So if you look at just 3 years ago, email, online chat, and social news that were beginning to gain real traction in addition to the traditional telephone, right? People would resort to the phone only in those instances where they have very specific needs. And then obviously as channels have become more modernized, more efficient, they've expanded to alternative ones. And in just the last 12 months, not only has the adoption of those individual channels increased, but at the same time, now you have text, video, and also customers that want to call in and self-service their needs where they don't want to speak to a rep. They want to be able to call in and have the system automatically tap a specific data set, whether it's your CRM or marketing automation tool or whatnot, combination of both, and have their question answered automatically without necessarily requiring the interaction with a human individual. And obviously, if you do this well, not only do you service the customer based on their preferences, but it's also very efficient for the consumer or for the business, because you know your reps are only addressing critical requirements from consumers that felt the need to call in as opposed to using an alternative channel. So when you go and look at the trifecta, having all those data sets available, whether it's a marketing automation platform or CRM, is very, very helpful. But if you don't have the communication platform to complement them, you basically only have one component of a two-sided coin in many aspects. And again, on the flip side, if you have the world's best communication tools, but you don't have the data sets for the representatives to tap into, they're still not going to meet the requirements and expectations, and specifically the level of customer experience that we've discussed today at length. And so if we take a step, if you will, conclude this webinar with sort of a final thought, or a visual one for that matter, is taking a look at how all this plays together. So if you look at the bottom, sales and marketing, obviously marketing automation being catered marketing to an individual demographic and so forth, being able to pull them in effectively, providing the data and information that they require in that research phase and so forth. And at the same time, when they get passed over to sales, having a CRM platform, or in this case Sugar, because they just think works very, very well with Sugar in their consulting services, but CRMs in general, using a CRM platform to help then take that baton and move forward with it and build a larger customer profile that you can use in the future. But those same features play a very, very important role, I would argue, perhaps a longer term, a far more important role in the customer service and support side. When a customer has been with you for a number of years, or they would expect you to have all that information, their historical archive, if you will, available at your fingertips to use as reference when those interactions have to occur. And then at the center of it all is obviously the ability to use those tools and communicate them between consumer and business. In this case, 3CLogic or a communication platform, but it could be any vendor for that matter. But having the ability to communicate across the preferred channels that the consumer may have chosen for you, and be able to then, again, bring that trifecta effect together so that you can manage a fantastic customer experience when you're first introducing the consumer to the business and taking them through the buy. At the same time, maintaining that customer experience on the back end when you're taking them through that customer journey as an individual who's now joined your institution, and really capitalizing on the net value that that relationship will provide you and your business over the long run.
Thanks, Guillaume. Well, I've been at Acton for 3 years and a customer for 2 before that. Slightly biased. I think we're the best marketing automation solution that applies to more businesses than anybody else. And in a nutshell, Acton stands alone, I think, in being a great tool set both for the nimble marketing team. Maybe you're wearing one person wearing 10 hats and doing everything, or maybe you've got 3 or 5 or 7 people on your team, all the way up to our solution is very oriented toward empowering you to take hold of the tools and not vice versa, where the tools are getting you carried away into realms of technical madness that you never imagined. You know, we provide a simple, powerful, integrated solution for marketing automation that ties together in an open-ended marketing ecosystem, CRM, native CRM synchronization to all the major CRM platforms. We have a great partner network, including DataSync and many others who can get you up and running with a great alignment of marketing and sales. You know, and solving many of the problems that we outlined today. We coexist within the CRM, as we discussed in this example of the Trifecta, where you have the CRM acting as glue between marketing automation and communication tools. We work in that ecosystem of inbound marketing, outbound marketing, how you manage your leads and move them into the sales cycle and then into revenue. We do all deep revenue and performance reporting, so you can spend more on what's working best. So it's just a whole bunch of ability to accelerate your funnel and delight your experience.
And thanks for that, Noel and Julian. So DataSync is a customer lifecycle solutions company, and we implement software around the world, and we provide our customers with software strategy and advice, including what tools to pick. Based on that, we work with executive teams to help them understand what their key metrics are, and we build executive reporting tools to map to their strategy. And then we provide these software implementation services with some of the fine vendors we got listed below, 2 of which are on the call today. Once we get done with implementation, we provide professional training, and if needed, we do develop custom software for our customers, and we provide ongoing technical support. And we use the customer lifecycle approach in everything we do. We start off with each touch point that a company has with their customers, from marketing to sales to service back into billing, and then we map the best tools for the job to that process and provide them with the return on investment that helps them to grow their business. We've been doing this for over 10 years, and we've been successful through helping our customers achieve bottom line and top line growth results.
Thanks, Noel, Guillaume, and Mike for your time. We hope everybody found this webinar very informative. And if you would like to learn more about 3CLogic, Acton, or DataSync, please visit their websites or contact them directly using the provided information. Thanks again.